Ben lived in a small cottage at the edge of Whispering Woods. The cottage wasn't fancy, just cozy. He was a carpenter, making chairs and tables for the people in the nearby village. Ben was a kind man, always ready to lend a hand, but he was also lonely. He liked his quiet life, but sometimes, especially in the evenings, he wished he had someone to share it with. The cottage had a small garden where Ben grew bright sunflowers and juicy red tomatoes. He often sat on his porch swing, watching the fireflies dance as the sun went down. He'd think about his day, the wood he'd shaped, the smiles he'd earned, but then the quiet would settle in again. One day, as Ben walked home from the village, a soft cry reached his ears. He stopped, listening carefully. It sounded like a baby. He followed the sound, pushing aside ferns and bushes, until he saw a tiny bundle wrapped in a blue blanket, lying near the old oak tree. His heart skipped a beat. A baby? Abandoned? He couldn't believe it. Carefully, Ben picked up the bundle. The baby was so small and light, like a feather in his arms. Her tiny face was scrunched up, and she was crying softly. Ben's heart ached. He gently unwrapped the blanket, revealing a baby girl with wide, blue eyes. He looked around, hoping to see someone, anyone, who might be her mother. But there was only the rustling of leaves and the chirping of birds. No one else was there. What was he supposed to do? He couldn't just leave her. Ben had never held a baby before, let alone cared for one. He felt clumsy and unsure. He imagined his own mother, long gone, cradling him as a baby. He tried to remember anything she'd done, any lullabies she'd sung. He remembered the feeling of being loved and safe. He wanted to give this little girl that same feeling. He decided right then, he would take her home. The walk back to the cottage felt longer than usual. Ben held the baby close, shielding her from the cool evening air. He worried about everything. Did she need to be fed? Was she cold? He had no idea what babies ate, or if he even had anything in the cottage she could use. His mind raced. He thought about the village constable. Should he tell him? But what if the constable took the baby away to some cold, unfamiliar place? He didn't want that. He felt strangely protective already. He also thought about the doctor in the next town. He should probably get her checked out, but that could wait until morning. He glanced down at the baby's face. Her eyes were closed now, and she seemed to be sleeping peacefully. Maybe, just maybe, he could figure this out. He would learn how to care for her. He would be her protector. He would give her all the love he had. He just hoped he was doing the right thing. Back inside the cottage, Ben carefully laid the baby down on his bed, which he had quickly covered with a clean quilt. He lit a small fire in the hearth, hoping to warm the room. He rummaged through his cupboards, finding nothing that a baby could eat. He did find a small bottle of honey. Maybe, just maybe, a tiny drop would help. As he looked at her, he realized she didn't have a name. He couldn't just keep calling her, the baby. He thought hard. What name would suit her? Her eyes were as blue as the summer sky, but her skin was as soft and white as a lily. Lily. Yes, that was it. Her name would be Lily. Hello, Lily, he whispered, gently stroking her cheek. I'm Ben, and I'm going to take care of you. He knew he didn't know much about babies, but he promised himself he would learn. He would be the best caregiver he could be for little Lily. The next few days were a blur of learning and laughter, and a little bit of crying, mostly from Lily, but sometimes from Ben too, out of sheer exhaustion. He quickly realized that honey wasn't a good option for babies. He rushed to the village and, feeling flustered, explained his situation to Mrs. Higgins, the baker. She chuckled kindly and pointed him toward the general store, where he bought powdered milk and a baby bottle. He learned how to mix the formula, though his first few attempts were either too watery or too lumpy. He learned how to change diapers, which was much trickier than he imagined. He sang her silly songs he made up himself, songs about sunflowers and buzzing bees. He even tried reading her stories, though she mostly just stared at the pictures with wide-eyed wonder. Ben was tired, more tired than he had ever been in his life. But he was also happy. Lily's tiny hand gripping his finger, her soft coos, and the way she looked at him with complete trust filled his heart with a joy he never knew existed. One sunny afternoon, as Ben was hanging laundry outside with Lily nestled in a basket nearby, a woman appeared at the edge of his garden. She was tall and slender, with kind eyes and long, dark hair that flowed down her back like a raven's wing. She wore a simple dress of green and carried a small woven bag. Ben had never seen her in the village before. She looked at Lily with a soft, gentle smile. "She's beautiful," the woman said, her voice like the gentle rustling of leaves. "May I?" She gestured toward the basket. Ben, surprised by her sudden appearance, hesitated for a moment. But there was something about her kind eyes and gentle demeanor that put him at ease. "Of course," he said, stepping aside. The woman knelt down beside the basket and reached out a finger, which Lily immediately grasped with her tiny hand. "She has a strong grip," the woman chuckled. "What's her name?" "Lily," Ben replied. "Her name is Lily." He watched the woman with a curious gaze, wondering who she was and why she had come to his cottage. He was about to find out. "My name is Alara," she said, finally looking up at Ben. I heard there was a baby here. A little girl." She paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "I have some experience with babies. If you need any help, I'd be happy to offer it." Ben was surprised. How did she know he needed help? It was true, he was still fumbling his way through parenthood. But he also felt a flicker of unease. Why was she so interested in Lily? "That's very kind of you, Alara," Ben said, cautiously. "I'm doing all right, but I wouldn't turn down some advice. I've never done this before, you see." Alara smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached her eyes. "Of course. It's not easy. Perhaps I could show you a few tricks. I make a special tea that helps with tummy aches, and I know a lullaby that always works wonders." Ben considered her offer. He could certainly use the help. And something about Alara felt trustworthy. But a tiny voice inside him still whispered caution. He decided to take things slowly. "All right, Alara," he said. "I'd appreciate that very much." Alara proved to be a godsend. She knew exactly how to soothe Lily when she was fussy, how to make the perfect temperature bath, and how to get her to sleep with a gentle rocking motion and a soft lullaby about the moon and stars. Ben watched in amazement as Alara expertly cared for Lily, his own awkward attempts replaced by her graceful movements. She showed Ben how to make the tummy ache tea, using herbs from the forest. She taught him the lullaby, her voice sweet and clear. He learned quickly, his initial hesitation fading as he saw how much Lily responded to Alara's care. Slowly, a rhythm developed. Ben would work on his carpentry during the day, while Alara tended to Lily. In the evenings, they would share a simple meal and talk, Alara telling stories of her travels and Ben sharing tales of the village. A sense of companionship began to blossom between them, a quiet, comfortable friendship that filled the emptiness Ben had felt for so long. He started to trust her more and more each day. But amidst the growing trust, Ben started to notice things. Small things, almost unnoticeable. Like the way Alara would sometimes stare at Lily with a deep sadness in her eyes, a sadness that seemed to reach beyond the cottage walls and into some distant memory. He also noticed a small, silver locket she always wore around her neck, tucked beneath her dress. He'd catch glimpses of it when she bent over Lily, and once, he saw her holding it, her thumb gently caressing its surface. Her expression was always the same, a mixture of longing and sorrow. One evening, as Alara was singing Lily to sleep, Ben saw her brush away a tear. He wanted to ask her what was wrong, but he hesitated. He didn't want to pry, and he was afraid of breaking the fragile piece they had found. Still, the questions lingered in his mind, like shadows lurking in the corners of the room. What was Alara hiding? What was the story behind the locket and the sadness in her eyes? One morning, as Ben was playing peekaboo with Lily, she let out a sound he had never heard before. It wasn't a cry, or a coo, but a real, honest-to-goodness laugh. Her little face lit up, her eyes sparkling with pure joy, and a tiny giggle escaped her lips. Ben froze, his heart swelling with happiness. He looked at Alara, who was standing nearby, watching them with a soft smile. And then, something magical happened. Lily reached out her tiny hands toward Alara, gurgling and laughing again. Alara's eyes widened, and she knelt down, gently taking Lily into her arms. Lily snuggled close, her laughter echoing through the cottage. Alara began to hum the lullaby she had taught Ben, and Lily's giggles slowly subsided into contented sighs. In that moment, Ben saw a flicker of something else in Alara's eyes, something beyond sadness. It was recognition, a deep, profound connection. He didn't understand it, but he knew that Lily's laugh had unlocked something within Alara, something important. The bond between them was growing stronger, more undeniable. And Ben was starting to feel like a real family was forming, right there in his little cottage. A few weeks later, a terrible storm raged through Whispering Woods. The wind howled like a wolf, and the rain lashed against the cottage windows. Ben had secured everything as best he could, but the cottage still rattled and shook. Lily, usually a sound sleeper, was restless and cried with every clap of thunder. Alara seemed particularly agitated. She paced back and forth, her face pale and drawn. She kept glancing out the window, as if expecting something, or someone. Ben tried to comfort her, but she seemed lost in her own thoughts. As the storm reached its peak, a loud crash echoed nearby. Lily screamed, and Alara burst into tears. I can't bear it," she sobbed, sinking to the floor. "It reminds me." Ben rushed to her side, his heart filled with concern. "Alara, what is it? What's wrong?" He had never seen her so distressed. He knew, in that moment, that whatever secret she was carrying, it was about to come crashing down, just like the storm outside. He just hoped they could weather it together. Between sobs, Alara began to tell her story. "A year ago," she choked out, "on a night just like this. I had a baby girl. A storm came, and we were traveling. The carriage overturned. I lost her. I searched and searched, but I could never find her." She clutched her locket tightly. "Everyone said she was gone, lost to the storm. But I never gave up hope. I've been traveling ever since, looking for her. I felt drawn to this place. I don't know why. And then I saw Lily." Her voice trailed off, and she looked at Ben with tear-filled eyes. "She has the same bright blue eyes, the same tiny hands." She couldn't finish her sentence. The pain was too much. Ben listened, his heart aching for her. He understood now the sadness in her eyes, the longing in her touch. He knew what it was like to lose someone you loved. He wrapped his arms around Alara, offering what comfort he could. "I'm so sorry, Alara," he whispered. "I understand." He didn't yet understand everything, but he was starting to piece the puzzle together. Ben held Alara close, letting her cry. He thought about Lily, about finding her alone in the woods. The pieces were starting to fit together, but he needed to be sure. He gently pulled back from Alara and looked her in the eyes. "Alara," he said softly, "can I see the locket?" She hesitated for a moment, then slowly reached up and unclasped the silver chain. She handed it to Ben, her hands trembling. He opened the locket carefully. Inside, there was a tiny, faded picture. It was a picture of Alara, younger and happier, holding a baby. A baby with bright blue eyes and a tiny nose, a baby who looked exactly like Lily. Ben's heart skipped a beat. He looked from the picture to Elara, then to Lily, who was sleeping peacefully in her crib. The truth hit him like a thunderbolt. He understood everything now. The sadness, the longing, the connection. It was all clear. He closed the locket and handed it back to Elara, his voice barely a whisper. "Elara," he said, "Lily is your daughter." Elara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She looked at Lily, then back at Ben, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Lily, my Lily," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. She stumbled towards the crib, her hands outstretched. She reached into the crib and gently stroked Lily's soft hair. "My baby," she murmured, her voice choked with emotion. "It's really you." She picked Lily up, cradling her close to her heart. Lily stirred in her sleep, then opened her eyes and looked up at Elara. A slow smile spread across Lily's face. She reached out and touched Elara's cheek, just like she had done before. Elara's tears flowed freely now, tears of joy and relief. She held Lily tight, rocking her back and forth. Ben watched them, his heart filled with a mixture of happiness and sadness. He was overjoyed that Elara had found her daughter, but he also knew that this meant things would change. He had grown to love Lily as his own, and the thought of her leaving made his heart ache. But he knew, deep down, that Lily belonged with her mother. He would do what was right, even if it hurt. The storm outside had finally subsided, the first rays of dawn peeking through the clouds. Inside the cottage, a new dawn was breaking as well. Elara looked at Ben, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for taking care of my Lily. For giving her a home when I couldn't." Ben smiled sadly. "She's a special little girl," he said. "She brought a lot of light into my life." He knew he would miss her terribly. There was a long silence, broken only by the soft coos of Lily. Then, Elara spoke again. "Ben," she said, "I know this is a lot to ask, but, would you consider staying with us? I don't want to take Lily away from you. You're her family too. And I don't want to be alone again." Ben was stunned. He hadn't expected that. He looked at Elara, at the hope shining in her eyes, then at Lily, who was reaching for him with her tiny hands. A warmth spread through his heart, chasing away the sadness. He realized that maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to say goodbye after all. A wide smile spread across Ben's face. "Elara," he said, "I would like that very much." He looked at Lily, her blue eyes sparkling in the morning light. He couldn't imagine his life without her now. And so, a new family was formed in a little cottage at the edge of Whispering Woods. Ben, the kind carpenter, Elara, the loving mother, and Lily, the little girl who brought them together. They shared their days, their laughter, and their love. Ben continued to work as a carpenter, making beautiful furniture for the village. Elara cared for Lily, teaching her about the forest and the stars. And in the evenings, they would all sit together by the fire, singing songs and telling stories. The cottage, once a lonely place, was now filled with warmth and joy. Ben had found the companionship he had longed for, Elara had found her daughter, and Lily had found a loving home with two people who cherished her more than anything in the world. They were an unconventional family, but they were a family nonetheless, bound together by love, loss, and a little bit of magic. Years passed. Lily grew into a bright and curious young girl, with her mother's kind eyes and Ben's gentle heart. She loved to help Ben in his workshop, learning how to hammer and saw, and she loved to explore the forest with Elara, discovering the secrets of the plants and animals. The cottage remained their haven, a place of warmth and laughter. They celebrated birthdays, holidays, and every small joy in between. Ben taught Lily how to build birdhouses, and Elara taught her how to bake bread. They created traditions, weaving their lives together into a tapestry of love. Sometimes, Lily would ask about the night she was found in the woods. Elara would tell her the story, always emphasizing how much she loved her and how grateful she was that Ben had found her. And Ben would add his own part, telling Lily how she had changed his life for the better, how she had filled his lonely heart with joy. They were a family, not by blood, but by choice. They had found each other, against all odds, and they had created a love that was stronger than any storm. Their story was a testament to the power of kindness, the resilience of hope, and the enduring magic of family. One spring morning, Lily skipped into the cottage, her hands filled with wildflowers. "Look, Ben," she exclaimed, "I made you a crown." She carefully placed the crown on his head, her eyes sparkling with laughter. Ben smiled, his heart overflowing with love. He knew he was incredibly lucky to have Lily and Alara in his life. He may not have been Lily's father by blood, but he was her father in every other way that mattered. He had watched her grow, had taught her valuable lessons, and had loved her unconditionally. Alara watched them, her eyes filled with warmth. She knew that Ben had made a great sacrifice, giving up his lonely life to care for Lily. She was forever grateful for his kindness and his unwavering love. Later that day, as they sat by the fire, Alara turned to Ben. "You know," she said softly, "Lily is so lucky to have you. You are the best father she could ever ask for." Ben smiled, his heart filled with happiness. He knew that he had made the right choice, staying with Alara and Lily. He had found a family, a purpose, and a love that was stronger than anything he had ever imagined. And that, he knew, was the greatest treasure of all. The end. This key point is already sufficiently covered by previous sections, so this section will simply add more detail to the same ending scenario. The aroma of freshly baked bread filled the cozy cottage. Lily, now a young woman, helped Alara knead the dough, their laughter echoing through the room. Ben sat nearby, carving intricate designs into a wooden bird, a gift for Lily's upcoming birthday. "Papa Ben," Lily said, her eyes twinkling, "tell me again the story of how you found me." Ben smiled, his heart warming at the familiar title. He looked at Alara, who nodded encouragingly. "Well, little one," he began, "it was a dark and stormy night." He launched into the familiar tale, exaggerating the sound of the wind and the rustling of the leaves. Lily giggled, her eyes fixed on Ben. Alara joined in, adding her own details to the story. She spoke of her frantic search, her unwavering hope, and the moment she saw Lily's bright blue eyes and knew she had found her daughter again. As the story ended, Lily snuggled between Ben and Alara, her arms wrapped around them both. "I'm so lucky to have you both," she said, her voice filled with love. Ben and Alara exchanged a knowing glance. They knew they were lucky too. They had created a family out of loss and loneliness, a family that was bound together by love, loyalty, and the enduring power of hope. Their unconventional family was a testament to the fact that love knows no boundaries and that family is not about blood, but about the connections we make and the people we choose to cherish. The end. As Lily grew older, she began to understand the true meaning of family. It wasn't just about sharing the same blood or having the same last name. It was about the people who loved you unconditionally, who supported you through thick and thin, and who made you feel like you belonged. She saw it in the way Ben always looked at her with pride, in the way Alara always listened to her with patience, and in the way they both worked together to create a loving and stable home. They were her family, and she wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. One day, Lily brought a friend home from the village. The friend, a bit shy, looked around the cozy cottage and then turned to Lily. "Your family is different," she said hesitantly. Lily smiled. "Yes," she said. "We are. But different is good. Different means special. And we are very special. We have love, kindness, and a whole lot of stories to tell." She then linked arms with her friend and brought her inside, ready to share the warmth and love that filled their unconventional home. Because, in the end, that's what truly mattered. The end. This key point is already sufficiently covered by previous sections, so this section will simply add more detail to the same ending scenario. As the sun set over Whispering Woods, casting long shadows across the cottage, Ben, Elara, and Lily sat together on the porch swing. Lily, now grown, was preparing to leave for the city to pursue her dream of becoming a teacher. "Remember," Ben said, his voice filled with emotion, "no matter where you go, you'll always have a home here." Elara nodded, her eyes sparkling with pride. "And we'll always be here, waiting for you." Lily smiled, her heart overflowing with love. She knew she was leaving a piece of herself behind, but she also knew that the love and support of her family would always be with her. As she prepared to embark on her new adventure, Lily knew that her family's story was a special one, a story of love, loss, and the enduring power of hope. It was a story that she would carry with her always, a reminder that family is not about blood, but about the people who choose to love and cherish you, no matter what. And as she stepped out into the world, she knew that she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, because she had the love of her family to guide her. The end.